We have awkwardly stared at each other for the last 8 minutes.
It's everything about the concept is what we don't do anymore. We don't just have conversations with people where there's not an agenda. Right?
It's like meeting a stranger in a parking lot or something and then like, hey, you want to have coffee?
Yes. Oh, so how you doing? How's your day?
Exactly. Well, we are live here, Coffee with Humans, with my soon-to-be new friend, Christina. She's still actually a stranger. I only met her about 8 minutes ago. That's the essence of Coffee with Humans. Two people just bumping into each other randomly and then saying, hey, let's go have coffee. Before we got on the broadcast, I was thinking if we could have this discussion anywhere, where would that be? And I came up with we could be sitting in Iceland in a hot spring.
Lovely.
If you could have this discussion anywhere, where would it be for you?
Love this question. I'm stumped right now. I'm not really a beach person in terms of getting in with the aquatic life, but I do like to be near it and feel the breeze from it. Yeah. And so anywhere by a beach.
What drew you to clicking the button to have coffee with me?
Was searching and I found this one and it grabbed me, it pulled me in, and it just seemed, your podcast and Coffee with Humans seemed very welcoming, that you were really eager and enjoyed just making meaningful connections.
Coffee with Humans is like Sunday brunch.
I love Sunday brunch.
Okay, good. Because, well, you're in the right place. Only There's no food. We are live once again with Coffee with Humans. What an exciting day, because my old friend, not new friend, Beck Barczuk, is on the Coffee with Humans. Welcome to Coffee with Humans, Beck.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you because we've known each other for, let's see here, today is May 21st, 2022. We've known each other for, it's been a long, long time. How long has it been? Maybe 17 years, something like that?
Oh my gosh,
years?
I want to say like 15. It's probably been like 15 years.
Yeah. Wow, a lot of ups and downs in that. Which it's been great. It's been really good to know you. And now for the first time ever, you're on Coffee with Humans. This is fun. So I gotta ask it. I ask everybody, why did you choose to have coffee with me?
So I was, this is a really tough question because I've had coffee with you before, just in general, like in person. Yes. And we just had like some awesome conversations over coffee and different, I mean, sometimes it's about coffee too, which is kind of fun. But I thought it would be kind of cool to have that like official coffee moment with you. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I am super excited to have you on here, and I know that we're going to have a great conversation. Before the broadcast, I asked you just a couple of questions. The system actually asked you a couple of questions, like what was on your mind, and then I had to title this chat, which is always a little bit weird for me because our conversations go wherever they need to go, and I'm not a real stickler about keeping it on target. But this idea of adventure is out there. I asked you if you could name a chapter, if you could title this chapter of your life, what would it be titled? You said adventure is out there, which is an interesting, very open-ended title. Where's that coming from? What are the roots of this idea of adventure is out there?
So oh my goodness. So I've been on just this like crazy journey of recovery. I had lots of ups and downs, you've seen them, but obviously not everyone else has. And I feel like every point in the journey of my life has just been some wild adventure, whether it's something really good and positive, or if it's something really down that I just like a lesson that I need to learn from. Either way, it turns out to be either a really fun story or something that I can share with others to kind of help them along with their adventures too. So no matter where you go, no matter where you turn, you can find some kind of adventure in this big wonderland for all the Alices and rabbits out there.
It's interesting that you bring up this idea of adventure in recovery, and again, I've known you for a long time. One thing that's remarkable about you, I think it's remarkable, is you embrace adventure. Not everybody embraces adventure, and I look at myself and I'm not sure that I've always embraced adventure. Is like just jumping in with 2 feet, and you've jumped in with 2 feet, as I've seen over the years, into some things that were not so great, and and then also some things that are really profound and amazing. And you're also jumping into this moment of recovery too, which is, I where does that come from? Is it courage, or how walk me through your mind? Well, how are you easily able to jump into things?
It's not easy. I've actually been hearing a lot lately that I just have so much courage, or that I show courage, or that I show strength. And I feel like it's not even strength, it's just fear. But it's like, I've been driven by fear for so long, but now I'm starting to understand that, like, it's not that it drives me, it's more that it pushes me, because I don't want to be where I was yesterday. I don't want to be where I was a year ago. I don't want to be where I was 10 years ago. I want to be somewhere new tomorrow. I want to be somewhere different today. So what can I do right now that's going to change from where I was 2 seconds ago? So I've made some drastic changes, and I feel like I would not be I wouldn't have this strength if I hadn't sat in that fear, if that makes sense, and allowed myself to grow and kind of move forward.
So what other people are seeing as courage, you're saying it's actually driven by fear.
I think so. I do think so. It's kind of stumped me a little bit, because I couldn't. It took me so long to figure out, like, what is my drive, like what is pushing me forward, and it's the simplest answer, and it's just, I'm scared to go back to being the person that I used to be. It was too much. It was too dark, and it was just someone that I would never want to introduce to my friends. Or to, it's one of those, like, would someone want to bring me home to their family? Probably not who I was even a year ago. So I want to be proud and not scared to introduce myself to people. Wow.
That's quite the realization. I mean, that's it. Other people would look at that type of having that type of comment and say, well, you have such courage for putting that out there, and kind of just owning your truth. And yet I think people see that as courage because everybody feels that in some way. Like, here's who I was and here's who I'm becoming. And is anybody going to be okay with it if I just throw it out there that, like, hey, I'm in the process of becoming, because everybody masks that to some degree until they're in a position like, you find yourself in, and I found myself in, and where it's like, hey, this is what you get. Like, and here's where I'm headed, and ta-da.
Yeah, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit at this point.
Well, so in your understanding, going through this process of recovery, which is an adventure, in and of itself. What was there a particular moment when you're like, okay, this passed? Because you talk about, I don't want to be the person I was yesterday. Was there a particular defining moment when you said, hey, enough is enough. It's time to it's time?
This is actually something that I haven't really spoken to very many people. I actually opened up about it last night. I mentioned I spoke and shared my first AA meeting.
Oh, wow.
Was,
amazing.
Super exciting. I loved it. It was a good time, but it actually was terrifying. I shared so much about myself and my past that I'm not proud of. So it was hard talking about myself like that. But at the same time, after speaking on it, then it kind of helped me move forward. It's one of those, like, as you talk about it, then you kind of move on. So my defining moment was February 20th of this year, 2022. I attempted suicide. And it was that day I ended up at the hospital. My dad met me. Love you, Dad. So excited. Well, not excited, I'm grateful for him. But I wound up in the hospital, and I remember thinking, like, I don't want to die. Like, I want to live. It was just in that moment, I just felt like I'd gone too far. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel like there was any way that I could change where I was. And, it was like I wanted a part of me to die. And so in my head for a split second, that meant like all of me has to die. But in that saving moment, where I wound up at the hospital, that was when I decided I don't want to die. I just want change. And I want to live. And in order to live, I needed to change habits that I had formed over the years. I needed to get sober. I needed to actually work on my mental health. I needed to get better and to get healthy. And from that, it was just like everything, like boom, boom, boom. Everything happened just the way it was supposed to. It was, I was blessed with so many different things. Like from the hospital, within 5 days, I was able to find a good rehab center in Chicago. And from 3 weeks in the rehab center, which I know it's super quick, I was able to move to a recovery home. And it's like, through all of these things, I just know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And this is the journey I'm supposed to be on. This is the adventure that I have been waiting for. And it's been a really cool one. It's been, just like so much generous Thanksgiving. So that was really my one defining moment of something needed to change. And it was all within me. So
I love that picture that you pull out of I didn't want all of me to die. I wanted a part of me to die. And it's interesting that people get to that point, and whether they go so far as to, attempt suicide, everybody lives with a part of themselves that they want to die, some more desperately than others. Because there's part of us that's sort of in bondage. It's like it's not who we want to be. There's an element of us, and people look around, sometimes in wrong ways to figure out how to get that part gone, or sit there and mask it with addictive behaviors or whatever, pretending like that. Well, if I don't look at it, it's going to go away on its own. Right? Exactly. Which then becomes this repetitive thing. Like, well, today I got to get it out of sight, out of mind as well. And then so that whole part of me wants to die. That's such a deep thought.
It's true though. Like, I mean, I hadn't thought of it like it could be a common thing. But that's just where a turnaround can happen for anyone. Like, even if it's not that drastic of actual like attempts, it's like anyone who needs to make a change, it's basically you're killing off a part of yourself. And it's like, it's the most negative thing about you. And for me, it was hiding from reality. It was not facing the darkest parts of my life in order to turn them into something light and something greater. Yeah.
And then right on the other side of that, what you said, as soon as I made that change, as soon as you find yourself taking that first step, courageously, or however you want to look at it, onto the road of, hey, I want to move, like you talk about, to the light instead of sitting in the darkness or denying the darkness. I want to move to the light. You talk about that. From what I heard, you say, it's like the path just opened up, and all of a sudden you felt almost like like a richness of life, rather than, whatever. What did you feel before it? Beside, because you've always been, again, you've always lived a life of adventure, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But but now now there's a light in your eyes, there's a smile on your face, and you're like, this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
That's a new voice.
It is, and it feels so good. I guess before the adventures that I was getting myself into, it was a different type of risk. So the risky behavior was me being like, I don't care what happens to me. Life is going to end someday anyway. So I might as well just, do whatever crappy things to this temple of a body that I can. And now the risky behavior is I have this life and I was blessed with it. So why not make the most of it? So instead of, using substances or hanging out in places that no young lady should be hanging out at certain times of the night, now I'm going out during the day and seeing where can I make a difference? What risk can I take that's going to bring light to anyone that I pass by? So every morning I watch we call them meditation videos, and it's just motivational videos. And today there was one, and this quote, I can't grow with people who are like me. The best thing I can do for you is to leave you behind. And so for me, one thing that has really held me back is that I have this fear of being alone. And again, this is where a fear can drive me. So instead of being fearful of just being alone, I can be excited to leave certain parts, places, people, things behind to find better people, places, and things. So take that risk and jump so that I can see what awesome thing is out there for me tomorrow. That's even better than whatever awesome adventure I was in yesterday. It's all about that. What is coming next for me, So, and you won't ever find out if you don't take those good risks rather than the ones. It's the risk of how can I live versus how can I die.
Wow.
And I'd rather take the how can I live.
That's the insights that you have now are I think they're refreshing. I mean, they're refreshing for me to hear. I've known you for a long time, and also I think that it resonates with other people that I've talked with as well. I'm sure, because most people want to believe that their lives have some meaning, and yet we go about behaviors that treat our lives as though they have limited meaning. That we are not amazing creatures put here in a miraculous way against all odds.
Yeah.
The book that I'm writing, there's a section where I was writing it, and I said, and for the first time ever, I've ever spoke the words. I wrote them on this page. And I was like, it's vitally important that you are here. And then I thought about it. I made it really personal. I was like, it is vitally important that I am here. And I said, that's the first time I've ever said that in my life. It is vitally important that I am here right now for this moment. Vitally important. And if that's true, then what am I going to do with it? Because I'm here against all odds. All odds. It's statistically impossible for a human to exist and much less be having conversations about wanting to change the world, about wanting to become, or live a life of meaning. And it's amazing that when we come to that understanding, which I think everybody wants, I really, really desire to have a life of meaning. It's amazing that when we come to that understanding that there is a new, it's it's almost like the clouds part, the sun shines, and it's like, today is a great day. And it all happens in a moment. I mean, if you added up the number of hours that you've spent in places that you shouldn't be. And the moment of change is a fraction of time.
Yeah.
And yet it made a world of difference. And
yeah, I'm 25 years old. So spending 14 years doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, that's what is that, more than half of my
Yeah.
life. And so it really is, it does seem impossible that I could be here talking right now about how great life is and how excited I am for any change that's going to happen, or that already has happened, and how grateful I am to be alive. Like, that's nuts. Like, that's crazy to me. I never in a million years I thought that I would be where I am today. For some reason, I just thought I would be stuck in that position of self-hatred forever. And to get a chance to actually learn to love myself and to love the path that I'm on and the people that I'm coming across, and to become closer with my family, even, like, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to find this kind of love. Yeah.
So this journey, you're not the only person who's on this journey. I know that I've connected up with a couple people, at least, who have been on, similar paths. How important has it, or characterize the importance, perhaps, of knowing that you're not alone as you go back out onto this new adventure?
Oh my goodness. So isolation is such a common thing. When I know, at least for myself, when I'm having issues or doubts, then I kind of just crawl into this hole. But then, like, I feel like sometimes I have like a split personality, because there's like half of me just wants to crawl into a hole and not talk to anyone. And then the other half is like, I yearn for connection with other people. So I think it's important to find the right people to have those connections with, because you need to surround yourself with positive influence. I remember once you told me that your personality kind of is made up by the 5 people you hang out with, or something along those lines. And
Yeah.
it's true. It is so true. I've noticed in myself sometimes, like, I can be easily swayed by the people I hang out with most of the time. Because the more I hang out with them, sometimes I feel like, oh, like, what they're doing is okay. When I need to take more times of doing reality checks too, in myself. And the more time that I have spent with other people who have like minds and who want health as much as I do, the more I see myself grow and blossom into this person that I'm supposed to be. So yeah, it's extremely important to find the right people to hang out with and to talk to, and to be able to have these conversations too. These are my favorite kind of conversations to have about, like, what is life, and where am I and why am I? Because it I love learning, and the more you think, the more you learn. So, and the more you talk about it with other people too, the more it gets you thinking. So yeah, definitely 100%. I'm going to keep looking forward to making connections with good, positive people who come across my life.
You talk about isolation. You also talk about thinking, and I know some folks who keep everything bottled in and think that they're going to make a difference in their own lives by just spinning around in their own thoughts and not speaking out their own truths of, here's where I've been, here's where I'm headed, and here's the, fears and all this other stuff that are circling around. They don't let it out. What is that process of letting it out? What has that process been like, and what has come of that, from, having conversations like this?
It's freeing, honestly. I've been doing a lot of different types of therapy, which I'm break the stigma, go to therapy. It's so important, because, you don't want to share everything with everyone. But there are certain things that you need to let out. And, so like for instance, I've been doing a trauma therapy, once a week, and, been having so many breakthroughs. And I immediately, as soon as the sessions are over, I walk out and I'm just like, oh my goodness, I feel like a different person already. And it's like every week I feel like a part of me is breaking off and I'm becoming more free. And so even if it's not like with a professional, there are like little things like, I don't know, just like day-to-day stuff that I can talk about with like coworkers or neighbors or friends that I've made along the way. And even the little things, like it's important to kind of get out there. You don't want to keep everything to yourself. Like obviously there are some things that you want to keep like just between you and God, but there, you don't just want to be your only friend. We were created for connections. Like there are multiple people in the world so that we can make connections with people and create relationships and build friendships with each other so that we can support each other and lift each other up when we need it the most.
Yeah. You bring up the topic of God, and the one thing that was created that wasn't good was that man was alone.
Yeah.
And so, other people are brought there because we aren't supposed to exist as an island. Then if you fast forward that to, you've been going to therapy, this idea that we in connection with one another, we become mirrors for the other person, becomes a mirror for ourselves and starts to trigger the things that we need to work on. We see ourselves in perspective of those that we hang around with, which is why it's so important to figure out who you're going to hang around with, because you will change. The things that need to be broken away will be broken away depending on who's around you. So you talk about getting sober. Well, you'd never get sober by continuing to go to a bar, because those parts of you are never going to drop away, because no one cares to have them drop away. And you have to be in relationship with people who will support that, because that enables those things to fall away and enables you to become the person you need to become. It seems though that finding those people is it difficult to find things that need to be? Yeah, I mean, how are you finding reconnecting with people as you as you take on the day? Because you've left a city that you've been in, you've left friendships. That's big time.
I deleted a Facebook and made a new one. Like I've cut off a lot. I have to sneeze. Oh my gosh. I've cut off a lot of things, and it has been difficult to find. You know what? No, I take that back. It hasn't, because I've noticed that the people who have been okay with like where I am in my recovery are the people who respect my honesty. So like, for instance, I'm moving into this new apartment tomorrow with 2 roommates, and they were excited for me to be moving in because they respected the fact that I was upfront and honest about the fact that I am in the beginning phases of recovery, and like, just a heads up, like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm not going to be doing. This is what I am going to be doing. And I've come to the realization that the more honest I am with people, the more respect I get. The more blessings come of people wanting to grow closer, people wanting to be supportive. Even my coworkers, they are so. One of them noticed that I had an NA key tag, and she opened up to me about her connection when it came to NA stuff, and it's like the people that I never would have expected to know anything about that. Those are the people who are more supportive for me to get better and to do well. And those are the kind of people that I want in my life. I don't want people who are going to say that they're going to be supportive, but then sit in their crap and continue to do what they're doing, and completely lose sight of what support really is. I want people who are going to be there when I feel like I'm slipping. I want people who are going to be there to remind me that I am doing what's best for me. And I want to be a light in people's life. And I can't do that if I surround myself with people who are continuously staying in the same habits that I was in for the last decade or so. So yeah, it's been, I guess, difficult to kind of cut people off, but it doesn't take long for me to feel free after that.
And you've also found then you're already surrounded by as people who have, you know, been your ally, and then for one, and it sounds like also that you find allies who you are becoming easily connected with. You just didn't know they allies because nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. Yep. That's a huge thing. Like, you know, there's these stigmas that if you're struggling with your mental health, then you're just a kook and like no one wants to be around you. Or if you're struggling with addiction of any kind, then you're just a bad person, and you're doing all this to yourself. Like, that's why people are staying silent. And I feel like the more that we talk about it, the more that we can break that, and the more connections that people can make with each other, to push each other into recovery, to push each other to fight this disease and to get better. And it's just impossible to do if we stay silent.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of movements even in professional worlds about mental health and people, you know, dealing with addictions and coming through recovery. It seems like the conversation is changing, and I'm not certain whether it's really changing or if I'm just connected to people who are talking about it. I don't know. Because you know, I'm connected to people all around the world. There's and it's a super big privilege, but there are people who are very successful, have it all, you know, seemingly have it all together, and have had really kind of like yourself, have had those defining moments where it's like, whoa, wait a second, the path that I was on, you know, this has got to change. But you'd never know it from speaking with them, other than when the topic changes, that they've got a very profound story to tell you and a conviction by which they live their life.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, when I was speaking last night, after I had finished, you know, telling my story, basically my testimony, there were some of the girls that, like, who were there saying, like, I knew you had, you know, had some difficulties, but I didn't realize that it was that deep. And it got me thinking, like, I've been told that I carry myself well, but really I just am good at hiding things, and I'm really good at pushing everything down. But through that, you know, like I said before, doing therapy and being able to talk more about it, you get tired of hiding after a while. It's kind of exhausting doing that runaround in the subjects and pretending that everything's okay. It's an act, and it's not always fun. Like, yeah, you don't always want to be down in the dumps. You don't always want to be negative on everything and boo-hoo, why me kind of thing. But it's okay, because everyone's going through something. Everyone's dealing with something. Not one person's issue is better or worse than another, because it's our issues. This is my thing. And that's okay, because through my thing, I'm getting a lot out of it. I've learned a lot of things that are going to help me in the future, and hopefully I'll get to help other people because of what I learned. So through all of this crap that has gone down, or everything that I've done or witnessed, something good's going to come out of it. So it's okay, and it's great to know that it's going to be okay. Yeah.
I want to hit a topic. The word I hear is releasing, and I've got a friend who says, you know, you eventually start to release, and here's how I've seen it demonstrated. I was talking to somebody recently who says, I just cry at random times, just like, and she was talking to a coworker, and that guy was like, he's going through some stuff, and all of a sudden he's crying, and I've noticed even in my own self, as I've gone through my own journey, it's like I'm very much in touch with this people's stories and the world, and kind of like the hurting stuff of the world, and this process of releasing of emotions and allowing them to pass through, even when they seem inappropriate, either inappropriate joy, like, hey, I'm super excited at this moment and I'm laughing, and I know it's not the time to laugh, but it is, right? Or crying, like, whether it's sitting in church or something like that, and we're talking about something that's not, it's not that big of a deal, but it's like, but it is, it is a big deal. What has that process of releasing been like? Because you talk about, you suppressed or repressed or whatever, all of these things, you didn't want to feel them. Now that you feel them, have you experienced that process of release? And what has that felt like? And what would you say to other people who are resistant to that?
What it really comes down to for me personally is it's learning and having an understanding of what I'm releasing. So getting an understanding of like when you use for so many years, you're really just suppressing emotions. And so I haven't felt certain emotions ever until I decided to get sober. So now I'm learning, like, oh, I'm crying. Why am I crying though? Am I angry? Am I sad? Am I happy? Like, what is going on? So it's really just learning, like, okay, it's that mindfulness skill of I'm feeling this way. What does it mean? Why am I feeling it? And then letting it flow. There was a book that I once read. It's called Buddha and the Borderline. And it's a memoir of this girl who struggled with borderline personality disorder. And she learned in her DBT therapy that your emotions you have to let them be like a leaf that's floating on a river. So you see it, you understand what it is, and then you just watch it float by. So learning to kind of sit in my feelings, it sucks. It really does, because it hurts. But once you feel it, you feel a lot better in the end, because you get an understanding of what it actually is. So that release for me it's allowing myself to feel things. And that's not something that I was able to do when I was out there doing whatever else I was doing. I wasn't allowing myself to, experience and relive certain traumas that I had experienced in the past. And in order to move on from them, you have to feel it. Otherwise, it's just going to sit like a pit in the bottom of your stomach forever. So again, that release, it's just like, it's a freedom because you get to let go of everything that's been holding you back.
Wow. Are you familiar with the book, The Body Keeps the Score?
Yes, I have it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, and the concept that I really interests me the most on it is this idea that trauma and reactions to particular events or feelings get stuck in this, like basically in the cells of our bodies or in our nervous system is really what it's talking about. So if we experience a particular triggering event, our nervous system just takes off because our nervous system was programmed by something, maybe a decade or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 before that one event. And if we don't, if we then just act out of that nervous system without addressing and rethinking those patterns, we just replay the moment over and over and over again. And typically that's where things like addiction develop, because I got to stop the nervous system event. I need to shut it down. I need to run away from that. But it doesn't go anywhere. It's ready. It's like it's primed, ready to take off. Have you experienced moments like that you've had to like start to reframe in your mind?
Yeah. That's a really good book, by the way.
Okay,
Highly
good.
recommend
I'll read it. It's on
Do
my
it.
bookshelf. I just haven't read it yet.
Okay. It's really good. It goes into, that detail of it breaks it down to the science of trauma and PTSD. And it started with like the studies of, veterans and how PTSD affects their lives, all the way to children who grew up in abusive homes and how that affects their lives in the future. Like there is like just something in your brain. I think it's like, which is it? Like one side of your brain, is connected to like the emotions. I think it's your right side. And when you feel something, then it like triggers, that, and then automatically like you feel something else that's connected to it. I'm not explaining this well at all. But it's hard to break out of that. But that's where the talking comes in. And it's where the coping skills come in. So like for me, when I'm feeling a certain way that I know is going to trigger something in my head that's going to make me want to suppress that feeling, then I'll go to the gym and I'll work out. And for one, that's a good one because you get to like release energy and like anything negative that's going through your body. But also it's getting your mind off of it, for a little bit until you can figure out like what can I do differently and how can I change what's going on in my head? Because if you don't have to figure everything out right away, you can give yourself time, or at least, I can give myself time. But eventually I will need to figure it out. But patience is such a hard thing for me to figure out. So I'm such a like, I need this now kind of person, that I'll forget like it doesn't work like that. I can't have everything just now. So if I take a minute to just breathe and figure out, okay, is this something that needs to be focused on now, or can I come back to it later? And most of the time I need to take a deep breath and like not focus on that right now. But eventually come back to it later, in a better, almost environment where I am able to like sit and figure it out. So like, let's say I'm in Walmart and like something, triggering happens and I get like a flashback or something. Let me find a skill that's going to help me at least like finish shopping. And then when I get home, I can figure out all the points that happened that led to that. And what do I need to focus on so that doesn't happen again? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. It makes a lot of sense. You have to pull the circuit breaker. Mm-hmm. Before the lightning strike just goes all through. You got to clamp it down, and then start the process of dissipating the energy.
Yes.
And then figure out, okay, now why do we continue to get lightning strikes? Mm-hmm. Let's go recraft how we that we shouldn't have built what we built. Gotcha. Yeah. You talked about walking around in Walmart. Is that you were just using that example, or do you actually have?
That's just an example.
Okay, all right.
I was thinking about it because I was actually I was at Walmart not that long ago.
Yeah,
so that was like the first thing that came to my mind. But I mean, it's happened in other places. We say like people, places, and things in addiction because those are like what trigger us the most. Are certain places, certain people, and certain things. Yeah. But it's the same with anything. So like a PTSD traumatic trigger, I could see someone in public who looks like a past abuser, and that could lead to a meltdown. And that would be a moment that I would be like, okay, that's not him. And I I can finish what I'm doing right now, and then I can go home and think about that and figure it out later. So that would be a more specific time, I guess.
I think one of the takeaways, and this is kind of why I asked the question, is it a real example? One of the takeaways of that is, for me, I've not dealt with significant. I don't think I've not dealt with addiction, in the fashion that, for instance, you have, and I've not dealt with, abuse in my past, and I just have not traveled that road. So I have no real understanding.
Okay.
And yet I know people who have, and you're the second person I've talked with in 2 weeks who said, here was my moment where I attempted suicide. And I've got friends who died from suicide. And so it touches me, but it's interesting that for those of us, and our viewers and listeners, in fact, who are watching this and thinking, what does this have to do with me? We are maybe 10 feet from somebody who's really, really struggling, like walking around Walmart when we're just going about our normal life thinking, I gotta scurry in and out to get my eggs and bacon. Right. And there's a person who's just like, I hope I can make it through the day, because I'm this event, or I'm just learning to get out there again and figure out how, not to be a basket case or something like that in front of people. And I think that it underscores for me the fact that there are so many people who deal so silently with these things. And then there are so many people walking around in blissful ignorance who are, 10 feet away.
Yeah, it's true. Like you never know what someone else is going through. And that's a huge reason that it's so important to be kind to people. And I know that's, I feel like that's kind of cliche a little bit, but, you never know, one nice thing that you say to someone that could be something that they remember for the rest of their lives. Like, oh, that random person who was buying eggs and bacon in Walmart, really helped me that day just by mentioning they liked the color of my shirt or something. Just it's so simple. It's so simple. But I like to complicate things, and I feel like I'm not the only one. But it really is. It's as simple as that.
So as we wind down our time together, which has been fantastic, and I'm so thankful. I'm very thankful for your journey. I've known you for a long time, and I've known you in some dark times. And there have been times when I've sort of given you the what for, and
I appreciate you. I really do.
And at the same time, always been super proud of you. The two sides of this. Now you're on a new journey. Two sides. Give us something for those viewers and listeners who are listening to this, who are resistant. They know that maybe it's time to make a change, but they're a bit resistant. What would you say to them? And then what would you say to other people who are walking around in blissful ignorance, unknowingly? Gift us with something for both of those people.
I'm gonna go cliche and simple again, but for the ones who struggle, it gets better if you give it a chance. We're surviving, but it's okay to make the most of it, and it's okay to want to be better. And you can get better each day if you give yourself a chance. And for the ones who have been blessed with not enduring those struggles, just be kind. And frankly, your life isn't over, so anything can happen. And if something were to come across that were that drastic, just remember that you're not alone. And there are good people in the world. So don't be crappy.
Don't be crappy.
Don't be crappy.
Well, that's a good way to send us off. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you. I've known you as a family friend for so many years, and I'm so excited about the adventure that you're on, because you said you will make a difference in the world, and you are making a difference in the world. And there's so many people who need to know that there is light out there, and there is hope out there, and the fact that you are demonstrating that is necessary. It's your existence in this moment is vital. So thank you for being on here.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. Well, to our viewers and listeners, this is Coffee with Humans. Normally it's a stranger who becomes a friend, but in this case, I introduced you to a good friend of mine, and I trust this has been a valuable time for you. So catch us next time live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, and more. And Beck, we'll talk to you later. Talk to you later. All right. See ya.
Sounds good. Bye.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.